Welcome to At Bat Breakdown, episode 7. This is Ethan, and this is a show where I learn a little bit more about pitch sequencing and strategy. So today, this episode is going to be a little bit different. So instead of taking a pitcher and batter matchup and trying to figure out what the next pitch is going to be, I am going to be kind of doing a little demonstration of a new project that I've been working on the last couple days. And the essence of the project is to answer the question, what are the pitches that a batter should be looking for on the next pitch that he sees, given the pitcher that he's facing and the previous pitch that he just saw. We'll get into all that, but just letting you know, it's going to be a little bit different today. The at-bat that I'll be breaking down is Aroldis Chapman versus Vladimir Guerrero Jr. last season. This was a 13-pitch at-bat, one of the best at-bats of the season in terms of just pure entertainment value and intrigue from an analyst standpoint. So we will get into that. I will not be doing a scouting section here. This is not really about what Chapman's strengths and weaknesses are versus Vlad's strengths and weaknesses. What I'm going to be doing is showing you, what my model that I made projects is the situation, and then we're going to see the reality and see if those two things match up. So I have not checked to see. I don't really know what's going to happen here, but we are going to find out. So before we get into the video, what I want to do is come over here into, this is R, where I do a lot of my statistical analyses, and just give you a little bit of background on this model that I made. So like I said, the fancy eyewash title that I gave to this model is the Bayesian incoming pitch type prediction model. So for those of you that are familiar, this model has a Bayesian framework behind it, but that's kind of making it seem more sophisticated than it is. The goal is to predict the distribution of pitch types that the pitcher is about to throw on the very next pitch. I think that the benefit here is, or not the benefit, but the, what we're trying to do here is figure out, if you're a hitter, what should what should your brain be thinking are the possibilities for the pitch that's coming, right? So there's some hitters that just think, okay, I'm just going to think fastball and react off speed, right? So those hitters are not really thinking that much about what is coming. But then there's a totally different type of hitter who, and we hear this about, we hear this when MLB hitters are interviewed, that their approach at the plate is to think about, okay, what is the next pitch that's going to come, and kind of almost guess, make an educated guess about what pitch is coming. So for those types of hitters, what I want to do is kind of make this model and figure out what should you be thinking. So an example of a distribution would be like, okay, I'm facing a pitcher who only throws a fastball and a changeup, for example, and I know that he is more likely to throw his fastball when he's behind in the count and his changeup when he's ahead in the count. So if I'm a hitter and it's 0-2, then I'm thinking, okay, well, usually he throws the changeup when he's ahead in the count. So I should be thinking, okay, it's probably going to be a 75% chance of a changeup here, and a 25% chance of a fastball. So that's an example of a distribution of pitch types that will be coming on the next pitch. I think that a lot of hitters do this implicitly in their heads without really thinking about it. They're thinking, sometimes on 3-0, for example, they might be thinking, okay, I think a fastball is going to be coming here, but there's always a chance of an off speed. Right. So that's something that they're thinking about, but they're not assigning a value in their head to those probabilities. So that's what this model does, is assign probabilities to what the chances are of each pitch type coming next. So how it works here is I just took the distribution of pitch types that the pitcher throws on the given count. So if it's a 3-2 pitch, we just take, on all 3-2 pitches, what is the distribution of pitch types that this pitcher throws. And then we also look at the distribution of pitch types that a pitcher throws after the most recent pitch type. So if it's 3-1, the pitcher throws a fastball down the middle for a strike. Now it's 3-2. but we want to know what's the distribution of pitch types that a pitcher throws after fastballs. Since he just threw a fastball on 3-1, what does he throw after fastballs? So then we have these two distributions, and what I did was I just took a weighted average of these two distributions. That's pretty consistent with how Bayesian estimation works. I do have, it is a little bit more complicated than that, but that's the basics. So what we get here, and I'll show you the outcome for the predictions for the first pitch of this at bat that we're about to watch, is that we give it the count. We say it's 0-0. We say, what was the previous pitch? Well, there wasn't one, right? Because this is the first pitch. And then this is the function that I made was find distribution, find dist, all the parameters here. And what it does is it pops out with a frequency that the hitter should be expecting of this pitch type. So we know it's Aroldis Chapman. I haven't baked in the fact that he's facing Vlad Guerrero Jr. So this is all just Aroldis Chapman versus righties is kind of what we're looking at here. That's what we're basing these predictions off of, is just Aroldis Chapman versus righties. So this would be the same if it was Aroldis Chapman facing JD Martinez, for example, or not Aaron Judge. They're on the same team, but you know what I mean. Any right-handed batter, these would be the same for now. So anyway, on 0-0, we're just using what does Aroldis Chapman throw on 0-0, right? Because this previous pitch doesn't have anything to do with it because there isn't a previous pitch. So historically, in the 2019 season, Chapman threw 80% of his first pitches were four-seam fastballs, 19% were sliders, and the remaining one pitch was a first pitch sinker. So I'm suggesting here, and I would love feedback. I would love to hear people's opinions on this. What I'm suggesting here is that Vlad Guerrero should be going to the plate right now thinking there is an 80% chance I get a fastball and about a 20% chance that I get a slider here. That's what I think that Vladimir Guerrero should be thinking right now before he even sees a pitch, which I think is fair. Before I click play here and watch this pitch, when you're watching this, if you're the viewer, what do you think that Vladimir Guerrero is expecting here from Chapman? I mean, Chapman, he is a fastball pitcher, right? He mostly throws fastballs, and he's known to throw the occasional slider. But Vladimir Guerrero, he should not be thinking, oh, a changeup might be coming, because Aroldis Chapman doesn't throw a changeup, or very, very rarely throws a changeup. So I think that this 80-20 thing that my model predicted for this first pitch, I think that's pretty accurate, just kind of using logic. So maybe I'm wrong. I think that this model definitely could be improved, but part of the reason that I'm making this video is to just kind of get a sanity check. So let's watch this pitch. We're going to see, first of all, what the pitch type is that Chapman throws. I'm suggesting it's an 80% chance of a fastball, 20% chance of a slider. And we're going to see if Vladimir Guerrero's swing or take indicates that that's what he was thinking as well. So let's watch. All right, so that was an absolute hack. It was a fastball, which, we said there was an 80% chance of a fastball. That's a pretty high chance. We're going to watch it again here. Vladimir Guerrero, he looks like he is anticipating a fastball, right? When you take a hack like that, he looked to be pretty on time. Let's watch it again. Well, actually, he was a little bit late, right? You're going to be late on a high 97-mile-an-hour Aroldis Chapman fastball more often than not. But yeah, I think that first pitch passes the sanity check. So now we're going to get into the prediction for pitch number 2. So the given count now, sorry, let me come back over here. This is the next pitch, pitch number 2 of the at-bat. Is an 0-1 count, and the previous pitch was a four-seam fastball. Those are the two main parameters that we are giving to this model. Don't worry about anything else. That's not super important right now. So what we find here is that the predicted distribution from this model is about a 2/3 chance of another four-seam fastball, about a 24% chance of a slider, and a 10% chance of a sinker. So these are the three pitches that Chapman has thrown in this situation before, and that is what we would expect here. So the takeaway, if you're Guerrero, is, okay, he just blew a fastball by me. He's less likely to throw a fastball now, again, and a little bit more likely to go to the slider but also go to the sinker. If you're Aroldis Chapman, this is a great demonstration of why it's important to get ahead, right? Because now that you're ahead 0-1, look at he can kind of use any pitch in his arsenal now, and kind of have Vladimir Guerrero Jr. guessing, right? Because up here on the first pitch, Guerrero said, okay, it's 80-20. Right now Guerrero has to say, okay, it's 66-24-10. And as a hitter, I would think that would be a lot harder to keep all that information in your head and, be balancing. Now there's 3 possibilities instead of 2. So let's watch this pitch. The model suggests that the most likely outcome here is another 4-seam fastball, but there's also, 1 in 4 chance of a slider, 1 in 10 chance of a sinker. So let's see what happens here. He goes back to the fastball. So as a human who's watching this, that makes total sense, right? Guerrero totally swung and missed on the first pitch, seemed totally overmatched, but he was also willing to go get a ball outside of the zone, maybe showing some overeagerness, some aggressiveness. So it makes sense that they go back to that fastball. I'm going to go back and watch it again. This is actually probably a better pitch than the first one because it's really close to the zone, and Guerrero's really not that close to putting a barrel on it. Let's watch it again. But in both cases, Guerrero seemed to be ready for the fastball, right? Like, he knew, or at least he seems to have had in his brain that a first pitch fastball, or that a fastball was coming in both cases. So it's now 0-2, right? So now we're going to come down here to the third pitch predictions. Sorry about that. Pitch 3. So it's 0-2. And the previous pitch that we just saw was also a 4-seam fastball. So we're going to run this again and see how this distribution is different, right? Up here for the second pitch, it was an 0-1 with a previous fastball. Now it's 0-2 with a previous fastball, and it's different. So in this case, this is the lowest probability of a 4-seam fastball that we've seen so far. Still the majority, still the most likely pitch to come here next is 54% 4-seam fastball. Also, almost an equal chance of a slider and a sinker, though. So if you're Vlad, and I guess he threw 1 changeup, so I wouldn't be thinking about that if I were Vlad. But Vlad now has to worry about, okay, he could go up again with this high fastball. He could go sinker down in here, kind of low and in, which is, I would assume, is where Chapman likes to throw that sinker most to righties. Maybe a low sinker as well. Slider. I'm talking about sliders here. Bottom, low and in slider, kind of like a back foot situation. Or he could also kind of throw this low and away sinker to maybe get Guerrero swinging. I don't think, personally, I don't think that a sinker is coming. But the model suggests that a sinker and a slider are about as likely, around 23% for each. And then with the remaining being a 4-seam fastball. So we're 0-2. We've had 2 high fastballs swung on and missed by Vlad. If you're Aroldis Chapman, if you're the Yankees pitch calling, do you do that again? Maybe he's ready for it, or do you do something else? I'm not gonna say what I think is coming, but we're just gonna see if this pitch lines up with what the model suggests. So that was a 4-seam fastball again. It was outside, which that's one thing that my model does not have built in right now is the placement of each pitch. So it could say 54% chance of a fastball coming. If you're Guerrero, outside fastball is totally different than up and in fastball, right? But either way, I think it's very important, first and foremost, to know what the pitch type is, and then we can worry about location later. So I might try to build that in later. But anyway, we get the fastball, which again, for the third pitch in a row, Chapman threw the pitch that was deemed most likely to be thrown by my model. And again, my model is based off of a lot of things, but the biggest determinant is Chapman's usual pitch usage pattern, right? So we have another 0-2 pitch. This is pitch 4. Oh, interesting. Okay, I am mistaken that this was a four-seam fastball. In actual, this was the fourth pitch of the at-bat. Did I skip one? 1, 2, 3. Oh yeah. So the fourth pitch, or the third pitch was. It appears that third pitch was actually a sinker. So sorry about that. This was deemed a 100-mile-per-hour sinker by Baseball Savant, who that's where I'm getting all this data from. So, okay, so take back what I said about it being the most likely outcome. So I guess if Chapman was throwing a fastball, it would have been up and in, but because it was away, he was because he decided to choose a sinker. That's why it was away. So sorry about that. So I am just going to move on here to now it's 0-2. The previous pitch that he just threw was a sinker, right? So we look at the model, four-seam fastball probability absolutely drops. It's now down to 10% that there's a four-seam fastball coming again. The most likely pitch now is another sinker at 57%. If we look at probability of a slider, that's 31%. So if you're Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and you are using Ethan Moore's Bayesian model to decide what pitch you think is coming next, you're going to narrow it down to about 2/3 sinker, 1/3 slider. If you want to really reduce it down and just narrow your thoughts to those two pitch types. So now we're going to watch pitch 4. So we're thinking now the most likely next pitch is going to be a sinker. All right, so pitch in the dirt, and it actually was a sinker. I set this up beforehand, so sorry if I'm not. Actually, look, we can come right here and see that the third and fourth pitches of the at-bat were sinkers. So there you go. Sorry about that again, but there we go. So he throws a sinker in the dirt. Sorry, I am bouncing around. Let's watch that one more time. All right, so super interesting. So this guy, Aroldis Chapman, who on 0-0 counts throws 80% fastballs, 80% four-seam fastballs, 20% sliders, and almost never throws a first pitch sinker. All of a sudden, in this situation, we were able to accurately predict that the most likely pitch was going to be a sinker, which is crazy because he really doesn't throw the sinker very often. So if we were just going to look at, okay, what does Chapman throw in 0-2 counts? Like, there's no way that he throws 60% sinkers in 0-2 counts, right? But because we know that he just threw an 0-2 sinker, that makes it even more likely that another 0-2 sinker is coming. So I think that that's kind of a little win for this model that I've made. Kind of cool. We are now moving on to pitch 5. So the current count on pitch 5 is 1-2, and the previous pitch was a sinker. So let's look at the prediction here. The model predicts that the most likely pitch here is going to be a slider at about 46% chance of a slider. Next would be sinker, 41% chance, and 13% chance of a four-seam fastball. So to me, I mean, if I'm hitting, I'm probably going to say, okay, I'm not going to be able to keep all three of these in my mind at the same time. So I'm just going to focus on about half a chance of slider, half a chance of sinker. I guess if he throws a fastball, then he wins. This might be an opportunity for the Yankees to throw a fastball here just because Vlad might not be looking for it. But in general, it's kind of, slider, sinker. So let's see what happens here on the 5th pitch of this at-bat. And so for the first time in this at-bat, we get a slider. Let's go back one more time. What I want to focus in on is Vlad Guerrero looking for this slider, right? So he's gotten 2 high fastballs, an outside sinker, and then a sinker that bounced kind of near his feet. So, if you're kind of looking at this from a kind of a more traditional pitch calling point of view, not using a model, you may not be thinking, oh, okay, sliders next, right? You might be thinking, okay, they're really just going to attack him with fastballs here. But also it's a 1-2 count, so they're ahead in the count. didn't have success with those sinkers, so maybe try to go slider. I guess it does make sense that they're going slider here, but I'm going to watch Guerrero swing and just see if it looks like he was ready for this, if he was thinking slider. Okay, this swing is very interesting. I'm going to try to scrub back a little bit and watch this. I don't think that Vlad was looking slider here. I think if he was, his mechanics would have been a little bit better. I think that he was thinking fastball, kind of had to hesitate a little bit. It's a little bit tough that Chapman's glove and head are right in the way of where we're trying to look, but that's okay. This is a total panic swing, right? He's hitting the panic button, just trying to live one more pitch. It's the bottom of the ninth. You know, he's the go-ahead run. Definitely don't want to strike out here, especially with no outs. So, are there no outs? Actually, sorry. I think there's one out. Hard to see, but yeah, I think there's one out. Either way, just trying to live another day. I don't think he was expecting slider here. Maybe he should have been. So, sixth pitch of the at-bat. We are moving on here. It is still 1-2, right? Still a 1-2 count, and the last pitch was a slider. So here is the distribution that he should be expecting. Wow, we are looking at not a good situation for Vlad Guerrero Jr., right? It's about a 39% chance of slider, 36% chance of four-seam fastball, 25% chance of sinker. That is pretty close to just being a total toss-up as to what the heck is coming next. I do want to point out that oh, sorry, I am a little bit confused here. I do want to point out that the distribution here on 1-2 with a sinker as a previous pitch is totally different from 1-2 with a slider as the previous pitch. Let me make that clear. I think that point kind of makes itself and shows that integrating this previous pitch in here is really important to this model. So, pitch 6, we really have no idea what's going on here. You can play along as a viewer. If you're in this situation, what you would throw if you're Chapman. Again, we've had 2 high fastballs, an outside slider, a poorly executed outside sinker. I keep messing these up. Poorly executed low and inside sinker, and then a slider at the bottom of the zone that Guerrero just emergency hacked with. If it's me, I might be going back to that slider since Guerrero Jr. seemingly was not ready for it. Maybe put it in a zone that's more like a swing and miss zone where he's not going to be able to get the bat on it at all. But let's see what happens. Woo! Wow. Okay, so they did go slider, like I thought. It was not super well executed, and Vladimir Guerrero Jr. almost walked it off. So this is not what Aroldis Chapman was trying to do at all. I'm going to scrub a little bit. We see where the slider is probably being, where he's targeting to put it. He might be aiming at this glove and having, wanting the pitch to fall more like back knee. I doubt that he's trying to just put it on the inside corner. That's kind of a weird place to put a slider left on right. But let's let it play from here. And so I think that slider got a little bit too much, not of the plate because it was still off the plate, but I don't think that is where Chapman wanted it. So we are now on to pitch, I believe, 7. So it's still 1-2, and the previous pitch was still a slider. So in this case, we're going to have the exact same posterior, that's what it's called, just prediction for what pitch is coming next. I think that another way that this model could be improved is if I had like the previous 2 pitches or the previous 3 pitches, because as a human, we know, okay, Chapman just threw this slider that Guerrero emergency hacked, then we threw another slider that Guerrero almost took yard. So are we going to throw another slider here? Probably not, right? I think it would be an interesting project to look at, what does the pitcher's pitch distribution look like after a hitter hits like a massive foul ball off of a pitch? Like I would think that they would not be that likely to go back to that pitch. See, because they kind of got away with it, right? So I personally here would be thinking either another high fastball or kind of a low and outside sinker. If it's me, I'm probably going high fastball. I'd be very surprised to see a slider here. All right, so they went low and in fastball. I'm going to go backwards and point out, if we look at the here, this pitch I don't think is meant to be low and inside. I think this pitch is just meant to be kind of generally inside, maybe kind of in on the hands. Interesting that Vlad had this big, towering foul ball on a pitch that was soft in. So I guess it kind of makes sense that they're going to go hard in now. As opposed to going like soft away, but Chapman seemingly misses his, but it's not a bad pitch at all. I mean, 100 miles an hour down at the knees, and Vlad does a really good job of getting his bat on it. So again, the prediction for this pitch was pretty much a toss up for what pitch type it was going to be. I suggested maybe the model's not accounting for the fact that the last two pitches were sliders. So maybe a fastball is more likely here, and the fastball, in fact, was more likely. So we are now going to pitch 8, right? So think along with Vlad Guerrero. It's 1 and 2. He just threw a fastball. We're looking now at this distribution of pitches, which is back to being, fastball dominant, 55%. Still good chance, 28% of a slider, and a significant 17% chance of a sinker. So, but here, if it's 1-2, you kind of have to be thinking, if you're, agreeing with the model, you have to be thinking another fastball here. Let's see what happens. Okay, so super interestingly, the Yankees set up in almost the exact same place as the last pitch. I'm going to go back to the last pitch. Remember, it landed right here, and the catcher was set up right here, kind of Vlad's mid-thigh-ish for a fastball. And in this case, the exact same thing is happening. The Yankees are really just going back to that one pitch. I don't know if that's, a model that they have that says this is the pitch to throw right here, and since the situation didn't change, that we should try it again. But, or maybe it's just whoever's pitch calling really believes in this pitch, but they're going right back to it. Again here. Again, poor execution. That, actually, let me check that. Yeah, that was a four-seam fastball. It was kind of weird since it was at 99, and usually his fastball is at like 100 or 101. But yeah, so we got the fastball that was projected there, right? We said 55% chance of fastball, and we got it. But now it's 2-2, right? So this whole time we've been in 1-2. Chapman, remember, started this at bat, immediately was 0-2. So Chapman's been ahead this entire time. But now the count's even, right? So it's 2-2. Last pitch was a fastball. We're now looking at a situation where Chapman does not want to throw another ball, right? Like I said, Vlad's the winning run here. A walk would mean the winning runs on base. A 3-2 pitch would mean probably a more predictable pitch is going to have to come. So 2-2, Chapman's really going to want to get him here. And according to the model, he's going to be going back to his bread and butter, his fastball, 61% chance, 28% chance of a slider, and again, significant 11% chance of a sinker. So we're going to watch this pitch. We're thinking four-seam fastball here. I would think, again, it's going to be up in the zone. I'm really surprised that the Yankees and Chapman had super success with 2 swing and misses on the first 2 pitches of this at-bat up above the zone with that fastball, and they have not gone back to it since. I mean, this is the 9th pitch of the at-bat, so there have been 6 pitches before this where they haven't gone back to that. I'm a little surprised. That's what I'm expecting them to do here. Let's see. All right, so he throws another fastball. Again, that's a win for the model. This is meant to be low and outside, and it is not. It is right down the middle. But when you're throwing 100-mile-an-hour fastballs, you can get away with this. So Vlad appears to be a little bit late on it. He still has not really caught up to a fastball. He's fouled off a sinker out here, fouled off a low and in fastball, and this is now another foul off a fastball. So Guerrero really seems to be having trouble with this pitch, but that was 2-2 with the fastball previous. This is also 2-2. This next pitch is also going to be 2-2 with the fastball previous, which again has the same distribution as the previous pitch because nothing really changed in the count or the previous pitch. So we're still expecting 61% fastball, 28% slider, 11% sinker on pitch number 10, I believe. Yes, pitch number 10. Let's see. All right, so for one of the first times in this at-bat that we are breaking down here, Chapman goes with a pitch that's not the number one pitch by a lot, right? I mean, in this case, the model said that a fastball is 2 times more likely than a slider. But again, we're not baking in the fact that he just threw 2 fastballs in a row. This model is only taking into account the previous pitch. So what we find is that Chapman, after throwing 2 fastballs, throws a slider. And I'm going to go back and watch this. Let's see if Vlad Guerrero is, if he's ready for this pitch, if he's thinking slider, or if his swing suggests he was thinking fastball. You know, so when I see this, I'm not an expert. I'm not a hitting expert at all. So just want to throw that out there. But when we see this, it appears that Vlad Guerrero is on this slider. If we look at the timing, it's really not bad. It's a pretty good swing. He looks balanced. It looks like his barrel is near the ball. He gets under it and fouls it back, so he may have been a bit late. But generally, I think Vlad does a good job of this. I think that means that Vlad's internal pitch distribution expectation was probably better than our model here because he assigned a higher probability to this slider, presumably, given that he was able to handle the slider well, than this model suggests that he should have. So I think so far we have found that this model does not do very well when there have been 2 of the exact same pitch type in a row. Both times Chapman has gone to a different pitch type when the model suggested that he would stay with that pitch type and triple up. So for me as the developer of this model, that's definitely something that is important to note. So anyway, he remember on the last pitch, Chapman broke with the model and threw a slider. So now pitch 11 is a 2-2 pitch with a slider previous. So when we look at the model, we are looking at the posterior here. The prediction is 44% fastball, 42% slider, 14% sinker. So again, if we're just going to narrow this down to the first 2 pitches, which is something that I kind of assume that hitters do, even if they're not conscious of it, right? Because it's like, okay, you can have this 14% chance, you know, I'll just have to adjust and maybe foul it off. But I'm going to narrow my sights to about, you know, half a chance, half of the chance being fastball, half the chance being slider, which if you're Chapman is a great spot to be in, right? You want this guy to have no idea what's coming. And this is pretty close to just 50-50 guess. So let's just see what happens. So the hardest fastball of the day, 101 for Chapman. Let's go back and watch. I'm going to watch Guerrero here. He takes it. So maybe he saw it well out of the hand. I'm sure he did. He has a great eye. I'm going to watch and just look to see if we can find any clues here. No, I don't really think that there's anything there. I think he just saw it out of the hand as like, that's a ball. You know, 101 out there. He's like, okay, that's not a pitch I'm going to do anything with. So he lets it go and works the count to 3-2. So this is one of the reasons why I say that this is one of the best at-bats of the season last year is because this started 0-2. I mean, Vlad Guerrero was totally overmatched, right? He swung and missed at 2 high fastballs. And now we're going to pitch 12 of this at bat. Like, dang. That pitch was actually deemed a sinker. So, oops, that's the wrong pitch. So this pitch 11 that we just saw, this high and outside 101, that was actually called a sinker. I am sorry, I'm having a lot of trouble determining whether Chapman's throwing a sinker or a four seam. Let's watch it one more time. I mean, I guess it does have a little bit of arm side run, but I'm sure his four seam does too. So, you know, if you're familiar with my work, you know that I'm not super fond of how Baseball Savant and MLB Advanced Media categorize pitches. And I think that if I was to use my own pitch classification model on this, these two pitches would probably be pretty similar, which is the fastball and the sinker, which is why I'm kind of treating them interchangeably in this video. But here is the next situation, right? So it is 3-2 because Chapman just threw a ball to make it 3-2, and the previous pitch was a sinker, according to MLB Advanced Media. That's this pitch here that we're looking at, 100.8 sinker. So let's come back here. And the predictions here, so this is a situation that happens less often. This N is like number of times this has happened. We have 50%, or sorry, not 50%, we have 50 instances and 17 instances. If we scroll up a little bit, we see that these other counts have a lot higher sample size. They're, you know, in the hundreds, in the upper, you know, a lot higher N values. So we might want to take these with this distribution here on pitch 12 with a little bit of a grain of salt. Aroldis Chapman obviously throws more pitches early in the count than late in the count. But I think this is still a really interesting finding here, is that on 3-2 pitches with sinker as the previous pitch, the model predicts about a 75% chance of a slider and only 25% chance of a fastball, with 0% chance of another sinker. I think that's super interesting. I don't even have to say anything else. This is super cut and dried. This pitch is going to be, the model has strong feelings about what pitch is coming here. Let's see if the model's right. And it is. Yippee, right? That's awesome for me. You know, when you build a model and it goes out on a limb, because this model, you know, this could easily say a third of the time it's going to be a fastball, third of the time it's going to be a slider, third of the time it's going to be a sinker, and just be done, right? That would be safe. You know, if we didn't know anything else, that's what we would predict would happen. But this model appears so far to be doing a pretty good job, at least in this specific situation, of predicting what pitch is coming. So this assigned a 75% chance of a slider, and it was a slider. Let's watch it again, and we're going to watch and see if Guerrero was expecting a slider. I'm suggesting he should have been, given Chapman's history of, you know, similar situations. But let's see if he was ready for this. You know, I think he was ready for that. It's again really hard to tell. The fact that he was early enough on it to be able to pull it, I think goes to show that, you know, that he wasn't just selling out for a fastball here, which makes sense on 3-2. I would expect Vlad on 3-2 to not really be thinking like this pitch is coming or that pitch is coming. He's probably just trusting his eye and saying, if it's in the zone, I got to swing. If it's out of the zone, I'm going to try not to swing, right? I mean, that's kind of like, I'm thinking there's not many like mental games being played in Vlad's head right now. But if he knew there was a 75% chance of a slider, you know, maybe he would have been able to identify that earlier and think like, okay, well, this is probably going to be a slider out of the hand, and maybe even lay off this pitch. I'm not sure. That's just what I'm suggesting. We're going to watch it one more time and marvel at the fact that this model was able to predict this pitch with, you know, pretty good accuracy. So now we are here. No spoilers, but I did tell you at the beginning of this video that this was a 13 pitch at bat. So this will be the last pitch of the at bat. On 3-2 counts where the previous pitch was a slider, the model has about a 50-50 chance on both a fastball and a slider. So again, this is a really good spot that Chapman has Guerrero in, where Guerrero really is guessing what pitch is coming. You know, it's pretty much half the time it's going to be a fastball, half the time it's going to be a slider, and Guerrero's probably just trusting himself to just, you know, be a hitter here, not really be thinking too much. but just kind of put the bat on the ball if it's in the zone, like I said, and not swing if it's out of the zone. So I present you with the final pitch of this epic at-bat. So there were actually 0 outs at the beginning of that. But anyway, this is a double play, and Aroldis Chapman wins the at-bat. So he goes from going ahead 0-2 immediately to then having to throw 10 additional pitches as Vlad fought him off with some good takes and some very good fouls, and eventually won on a fastball. So the model said, I don't really know. I mean, I guess fastball is a little more likely than a slider, about 5 percentage points more likely, but pretty much a toss-up. And fastball all throughout the at-bat, Vlad had difficulties with the fastball, the four-seamer at least. And in this case, it was no different. So it was a really well-low 100-mile-an-hour fastball. Kind of not really much Vlad could do there. I mean, I guess he could have put a better swing on it and hit it a little harder. But that's just kind of how it goes. So anyway, thank you very much. We'll come back to here. So just to break it down a little bit, to break down the conclusions, the model, I'm pretty satisfied with how the model worked. I think in a general situation, if you're watching a baseball game and you're informed about what pitches the pitcher throws, what he likes to throw in certain counts, what his tendencies are against hitters that are the same handedness as the guy who's at the bat. I think that if you think about that, you can probably think, okay, you can probably order, this is the order that I would expect the pitches to happen in, right? If it's fastball most likely, slider most likely, or slider second most likely, and sinker third most likely, for example. I think that is that's something that you can do, and that's something that hitters are probably doing in their heads as well. I would love to have a hitter on to talk about this with. So if you're a hitter and you're watching, it's probably unlikely, but I appreciate it. So, and I would love to talk about this theory with you. So anyway, that is enough for now. Thank you very much for watching. If you're watching, you are a real one, and I really appreciate it. I would also appreciate you giving me any feedback on this format or something that I said or something that I missed. So thank you guys very much again. And this model will only get better. So look out for that. And I will see you guys in the next one. Thanks.